Hey folks, this is Lucid, and we are going to talk about drafting. Yes, a video on drafting. So we're playing Late Age. The way the tournament works is basically everybody got to, it's a 9-player game, and everybody got to vote to ban one nation. If a nation received 2 votes, then it got banned. Yeah, so we ended up having a relay ban, which is interesting because it's considered one of the worst nations in the game often. Which you don't normally ban, but it's also not fun. So I think that's kind of the idea. Lemuria got banned for obvious reasons, and then Atlantis got banned. I think also, again, pretty obvious reasons. And Raga got banned. Pretty obvious reasons. People don't like Zidans. I think it's kind of funny thinking about how bans work. I think a lot of the times people are banning either to have more fun or to make it easier to think about the early game for their nation. The early game for your nation becomes way more complicated when you're thinking about Lemuria. Like, how am I going to deal with Lemuria, right? It makes your early game very complicated. It's also not fun. So Lemuria is like the most obvious ban. I think it's been banned in every single Late Age game in the tournament. Raga also, it's fun to play against Raga, but it makes the early game really complicated. Like, you have to ask yourself, how am I going to survive against Hellblessed Zayedans? And if you just ban them, you don't have to think about it. So anyway, I think that was probably why the bans happened. These names are in, so this is playing in the game, and these names are in the order in which people are going to draft. So once all the nations got banned, people could then draft. And yeah, so I was 8th out of however many, 9. And what that means is I kind of got the last pick of all the nations. So Joman, oddly, first pick, but that's because this player always plays Joman. Nick Knight, who's also a very good player, is playing Midgard. And Midgard is pretty good. It's a good nation. Got RCK playing Gath. We've got Heretic playing Utgard. We've got Cool Noodles. Also, look, I don't know. There's people I haven't played with. I don't think I've played with RCK. I don't think I've played with Heretic. I might have played with Heretic once. I can't remember. He's probably a good player. I know he's been around the community a long time. I've played with Cool Noodles a few times. I know Cool Noodles is a good player. I haven't played with Vinny before, but he picked Vedheim, which is a very strong nation. And then Late Age Ulm, obviously, is also really, really strong. And then we've got Late Age Arco, which is versatile, but not like overwhelmingly strong. And we've got myself playing Man, which there have been a lot of Late Age games. Man has never been banned, obviously. And then it also has not been picked. I'm the only person to pick Man in Late Age. That said, it's not that people think Man is like weak or anything. Like, you can't play a game with Man. Man's thought to have some good strengths, but not strengths that are strong enough for anybody else to want to play them. So anyway, it could be because we're going to have 14 games in total, or 16 games in total for the tournament. So it could be there's potentially some other Man players as we go forward. Next up, their nation also I've kind of always wanted to play a little bit. I didn't want to play them for the tournament. I had like a list of the nations I wanted to play. Like, I wanted to play Vedheim, I wanted to play Utgard, I wanted to play Gath. I didn't really want to play, I want to play Midgard too. I also want to play Ulm. Really, all these nations here were on my list of like I want to play them. And once they all got picked, I was like, shit, maybe I'll get Arco. And then next Arco got picked. I was like, damn it. What am I going to get? And then I was like looking and trying to come up with something. And this gets into like the drafting. And I was trying to get something where I was like, what is going to survive? Like, I need something that can survive Gibbers running at me. So I'm going to need stuff that's going to hit really hard, or like Gamherdings running at me. Like, if I have Gibbers or Gamherdings running at me, especially like Hellbless Gamherdings are just really scary. What is the nation that's going to trade at least okay with them? And I decided on Man because we've got some two-handed wielding dudes who hit really hard. The other thing I'm really worried about is Berserkers, like buff to hell Berserkers running at me. And I think also Man is going to have the tools to deal with that. One thing is, while they're buffing up, we're going to be able to pepper them with archers, which should work pretty well against Vedheim. The other thing it's going to work probably pretty okay against is if we have a critical mass, is against Utgard. Like, Skelly Spam Communions seem to be good, but when you hit them with a critical mass of Archer Fire at the beginning, especially like while they're forming their communion and there's no skeletons to distract them, it can be pretty devastating. And then you can also keep, with enough like blanket fire from the archers, the skeletons don't really make it to you, and you're usually every once in a while hitting mages and killing them. So I think that's viable against these players. And man, by the way, is just like archery supremacy is kind of their thing. The other thing is elves, which probably in terms of like it could be that I should be more worried about other players, but right now I'm most worried about Nick Knight. Just because, he potentially could expand crazy fast with Midgard. If you take the right bless, you can expand really fast with Midgard. So I'm worried about him getting out of control early. Midgard's got really solid early, mid, and late game. And I'm kind of worried about getting out. Everybody hates getting out, and anyway, these are the damn elves in this game. So I want to be good against them. Crossbows are one of the things that Midgard's really going to struggle to expand into. Now, in the mid game, or early mid game, they're going to have thugs running around with potentially gear, and of course, all their thugs all game are going to have air shield. So, obviously archery is not great against that. But like their sacreds, unless he took air shield, which would, by the way, be smart on his cavalry, then our crossbows are going to destroy them. And even if he did take that, our troops are pretty heavily armored, so that when they get in close combat with us, they're just kind of, they're kind of like, they're not going to be able to punch through our armor terribly effectively, I don't think. The problem, though, is once he gets arrow pinned and stuff up like that, by that point, we're going to basically be having to rely more on our mages. And with Midgard, we also have the problem they can magic duel us reasonably efficiently. It's not going to be like excellent for them, but it'll be probably good enough it's worth doing. So anyway, that's one of the matchups I've thought a lot about, and I think Man is a pretty good matchup against Midgard, all things considered. Gath is a bit more tricky of a matchup. I think we have enough critical mass of crossbow fire. We should probably be able to kill Gibbers, but Gibbers have shields and things like that. They won't go down easy. Gath, I'm kind of worried about. And especially if we get the late game threats here, the biggest late game threats are Mictlan and Gath and Ulm. So I think the way I'm kind of thinking about the game is I'm expecting Nick Knight to be the biggest year one. And hopefully we can, I don't feel like I need to like kill him or anything, but hopefully at least I get mine land and we keep him from getting out of control in the early game. And I think, obviously this could play out way different. It could fail in expansion. Other people could be really big. We'll see. Whoever the big person is, I think that's the first thing we have to check. But after that, and I'm not going to be the big one, I don't think. I'm going to be like a very normal size. After that, like if that doesn't go out of control, somebody's not super duper big, then I think it's going to be a mission of uniting all the non-blood players against the blood players. Or at least get enough of them to take out a specific blood player, like getting Mictlan out of the game, getting Ulm out of the game, and then probably a lower priority, but getting Gath out of the game. The reason I say lower priority is I feel like Gath's blood comes online a little, I don't know. I think Mictlan's the first threat, like getting Mictlan out of the game, and then getting Ulm or Gath like beat up. After that, we can deal with like the minor blood powers like Midgard or Vedheim. That's probably not a big deal. The other things are going to override that, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. My matchup first, Arco should be kind of okay. Arco doesn't have a ton of shields, like their Sacreds don't have shields, so we'll kind of wreck them. Vedheim I think will be okay against. Ulm we're actually really good against. Ulm doesn't really have great shield troop options, I don't think. They get, if we look at Ulm, there are two-handers, which are really good. They don't have... The two-handers definitely don't have shields. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to wield their big fucking swords. The Zwei. Which, for those of you who don't know, Zwei is 2 in German. So, yeah. The two-handers, they're carrying this big fucking greatsword. But they still are not going to like really heavy crossbow fire. Do they get... Oh, okay, they've got this guy who's got a shield. So potentially they could form a line of these guys and come at me, which like they would do an okay job forming a screen, but they're not terribly frightening in melee. And they've got the Rangers of Ulm, but I mean, man is a nation made to trade crossbow fire. So if he wants, he'll be able to have more, but bring it. You know, if like you're not going to lose a crossbow duel with Tower Guard and Defenders against Rangers of Ulm. I mean, Rangers of Ulm, really good unit, but not trading crossbow fire with, I mean, we just demolished these guys. So we have a really good matchup there. Black Templar, if he took a really good Bless, Black Templar could mess our day up. Like, these would be the best units Ulm has against us. Like, just a huge contingent, like a big fucking line of heavy cav with, like, a bark skin fire resistance Bless. That would be one of the things that would just chew us to pieces. But that's cap only. It's hard for them to mass. And most Ulm players don't rely on, like, a sacred expansion strategy with these guys. But, I mean, even these guys without a Bless are pretty darn good because they've got really high protection, and then in addition to the protection, they have a kite shield, and this is a really good shield. This isn't just like a normal shield; it's like a really good shield and really good protection. They still can get killed by crossbows, but they are going to shrug off a lot of crossbow fire. So yeah, these guys with like a bark skin fire shock resistance Bless, which would, by the way, be basically custom built to mess with me. I don't expect that. They would be really strong in the mid game, even when I have like Wind Guide and Flaming Arrows up. But anyway, this Ulm. Yeah, Utgard, it's going to be the Skelly Spam Communions. Gath, it's going to be dealing with the Sacreds. This will be dealing with the Elves. Jommen's interesting. The thing I'm most worried, like Jommen, we're going to crush their troops. The thing with Jommen we have to worry about, and we'll come back because we have to worry about it with a couple other nations, is Foul Vapors. Their Ryujin can do it. They might have some national mages that can also do it too. But attacking into Foul Vapors is going to be really tricky. And that's going to get us to the Pretender design and all of that jazz. But that's one of the main downsides of man, would be like attacking Jommen would not be good. Utgard, I don't think can do Foul Vapors, though I kind of actually really want to check right now. A lot of the Neefeld type nations can, because their Scrati get the cross path, but I don't think Utgard gets it, because I think they lose some paths on the Scrati. So the Scrati, oh no, they can still do it. Shit, that's right. I forgot they're still Water 1. So yeah, Utgard can do it. I don't know why I was thinking they can't. So, okay, Utgard can do Foul Vapors. Jommen can do Foul Vapors. Vettiheim can definitely do Foul Vapors. And I don't think Arco can. And I don't know if Mictlan can. Let's find out. But Foul Vapor is going to be one of the things we're most worried about. But we've taken, when we get to the Pretender design, I'll show you, we've taken some precautions. Okay, these guys can't, thank God. Oh wait, no, that's Utgard. Who did I want to check? Arco. I tell you what, and the timing for Foul Vapors, it can be really hard to even run somebody down before they get it. Please tell me there's no water. Fuck. These guys can do Foul Vapors too. Yeah, easily. Multiple different units can do it. Arco, and then who's the other one I was worried about? Gath, I don't think can do it. Thank God. Okay, Gath can't do it. What else was I looking at? Mictlan. Can Mictlan do it? Do not have an... Fuck. Mictlan can do it too. That's going to be my biggest vulnerability this game, is the Foul Vapors. It's honestly the biggest vulnerability right now to, like, anytime you want to play Scales, It's like one of the main things you have to worry about. And we are in a special situation since we don't have nature mages. And anytime you want to play a scales nation without nature mages and without built-in poison resistance to your troops, or in where you're not planning on using mostly sacreds, you're kind of up shit creek when it comes to foul vapors. So it's one of the things we're going to have to plan around. We're going to have ways of dealing with it. There's a few nice things we have in dealing with it, like potentially our volley of fire can just kill the foul vapors caster. We can also rout the enemy army in like 3 turns, and as soon as they rout, or almost as soon as they rout, it may be as soon as they rout, foul vapors will come down. But a few turns of foul vapors will still cause a tremendous amount of damage. So not very excited about that. So basically, I think we're going to have to take it in our bless. And we're also going to have to probably look at getting Poison Ward reasonably early and getting Nature Mages tied into a Communion. But that's definitely our biggest weakness. So the nations that don't have Foul Vapors access at all, I think, are Midgard, are Gath, are Ulm, and I think that's it. So there's only 3 nations that don't even have access to it, aside from myself. So we're going to have to figure that out. I'm not... that's going to be the biggest challenge, I think. And honestly, you lose one big fight because of Foul Vapors, and that can just ruin your chances of the game. So we're going to have to be super cautious. But anyway, I think that's it. My other options to pick, because this is about drafting. I'll show you the other ones I was looking at. I was looking at potentially taking Arco. That got cut. I was thinking about Pangea. Pangea would have been pretty good. We would have nature to deal with Foul Vapors. We would have these troops and whatnot that are, it's a pretty solid lineup. What I didn't like about these troops is potentially having to deal with, like, Gibbers. We don't have, I guess the Minotaur would deal with them pretty well. Or, like, the Gamherdings the Minotaur would deal with. Yeah. You need some really heavy... You don't want to sit there and try to poke Gibbers to death with, like, a tiny little light lance and a hoof. You want somebody that's going to hit them with the battle axe and knock them out. And fortunately, I guess we have these... You normally don't get a lot of Minotaur as Pan, or at least in most of the ways I've seen it played, but I guess in this case it would be appropriate. They're really expensive, too. But anyway, I was thinking about getting Pan for that. You've got... The Sages are really good. And the Pans are pretty good. You've got kind of a few things. I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with it. I felt like the troops didn't hit quite hard enough. And the Dryads are nice and stuff. I don't know. I wasn't really feeling Pan, but they were definitely one of the other ones I was considering. I looked briefly at Patala. I tried to see if I could find a bless that would make them work. I ultimately decided I couldn't come up with the bless that made the Nagas work for expansion, which meant I would have to play Scales, and I didn't really feel comfortable with Scales expansion. I just felt like I'd be too weak in the early game. And then, what else did I look at? I looked at Zabalba and I looked at Mictlan. Those were both kind of towards the top of my roster. I played Late Age Mictlan before, so I think I probably could play the same bless again. While you think with Mictlan you have a lot of flexibility in what bless you take, I think you actually don't have a ton of flexibility because it's so hard to expand in the Late Age into like heavy cav and crossbows that it really limits you down to maybe like 2 or 3 archetypes of a bless. Like you can go a luck kind of killy bless, which I think is what I did in my Let's Play. You can do that, or you can go like a defensive oriented bless with like Regen, Fortitude, Blood Bond or something, and you'll be able to expand with that. But I think you're kind of limited, and you need a really heavy bless to be able to expand. And I tried also Zabalba. I couldn't really. I'll be honest. I tried probably like 3 or 4 times. I could never have expansion that was fast enough I felt comfortable with. But that was the other one I was looking at. Now that said, like to practice for my early age Zabalba game, I had to practice a lot with expansion. Expansion with early age Zabalba. Like if you watch my series, you see I expand well. I'm like aggressive. I win my first war. Um, like I had to practice a lot to get the right intuition for like how many I would need for this and that. And I'd do it better if I did it again with Early Age Xibalba. But I didn't put that time into Late Age Xibalba because expanding in Late Age is harder, and I don't know. There's probably things you can do. I haven't tested all the permutations and combinations of units and blessed types and stuff. But I know just like bats and the bat sacreds didn't work very well. I don't know. I figured out. I just couldn't come up with an expansion I felt comfortable enough with these guys. And other players are going to be doing the exact same thing that I did, where it's like, hey, let's get the big blood nation out first, right? And if I have the option, I'm going to try to do that. So that is, I think those are the main nations I looked at. Maybe let me check, see if there's another one I looked at. I looked briefly at Marignan. It's a little too, the troops are a little too bad, I think. I mean, Marignan, they have the hard hitting dudes, so they can take care of it on the hard hitting front, and they have crossbows, which can be really good in a lot of these matchups. Marignan could have worked. I feel like their power curve it's back end heavy. Like they have a better late game than Man for sure, but I feel like their power curve in the early and mid game is not as good as Man's, and I'm already feeling weak against potentially getting elfed and potentially having Hellblessed Gamherdings coming at me and potentially like Hellblessed Gibbers coming at me. I'm already feeling unsure in my early game. I don't want to play any weaker in the early game than I currently am with Man. So that's what's kind of throwing me zone. I also thought about Late Age TNG. Late Age TNG would honestly be a pretty solid pick. It wouldn't necessarily be great against like Ulm, Ulm would probably win in a crossbow shootout with these guys because they would just have a ton more rangers and I'd have barbarian horsemen. But you probably just don't shoot them. You probably just charge them with your heavy cat in that case. So I don't know. Late Age TNG is good, but it's also a nation I probably understand less than I understand Late Age Man, and I've never played either of them. So I wanted to do, I think Man is a little bit more comfort in terms of stuff I understand and how it's going to play out. But Late Age TNG, I think, was another option I was thinking pretty strongly about. I'm not going to get knocked out of both tournaments with Agartha, so I didn't even look at Agartha. Late Age Abyssia, I would love to play Late Age Abyssia. But I don't really know how to expand with them. Is kind of the short answer. You can do Assassin expansion. It works kind of okay. You can do a mix of Assassins and troops. I feel like you could expand pretty well. But I also don't really know. Like, you don't really want to make their troops into elves. Like, you probably want to deal with elves with crossbows. So they kind of failed my elf test. Like, if elves come in with, like, fire resistance, how am I going to kill them efficiently? Like, Assassins aren't good against elves most of the time. Unless you have like some special assassin bless for dealing with elves. I mean, especially in the early game. Like if your land just gets covered in elves. So I didn't really feel comfortable with Abyssia for that reason. I think, did Caleb get picked? I thought Caleb didn't get picked. Well, I should have thought about Caleb. Caleb would have been, I didn't really seriously think about Caleb. I don't know why. But they suffer a little bit with troops that hit that hard, but a lot of the nations we're fighting don't have super defensive stuff, except maybe buffed up Vedheim, right? Or potentially like Scrotty. So, I don't know. Caleb suffers in the hard-hitting department, which there's not a ton. I guess you have super combatants potentially coming out of Gath and Utgard. But Caleb would probably do pretty well against Ulm, like flyers do well against crossbows. They would struggle with the heavy cav of Ulm, kind of the same way I'm going to struggle with the heavy cav of Ulm if Ulm chooses to make that. They'll be kind of okay against elves, because horses don't like being surrounded, especially if they get surrounded by Raven Guard. And they'd probably be pretty okay against Joman. Arco, I think, has good enough troops they would kind of whip Caleb. Oh shit, I'm about to miss my turn. 1 second. So yeah, Caleb I think was another consideration, but it's also I think a nation like maybe if I played Caleb before, I would want to play them now. But it's also a nation I don't have a comfort level with the timings. I've never played Caleb in any age. I understand how they play, but I haven't actually played them, and those are different things. And yeah, I just didn't feel comfortable enough with them. So anyway, we're gonna try it with Man. I think the next video will be a national overview, and then we'll do a pretender design. So I will see you guys then. Take care.